Over the past few days, the path to a US green card has gotten a lot shakier for many. The White House on Friday has proposed a new $100,000 H-1B fee combined with travel restrictions, and this has caused a lot of panic. Many companies are advising their workers to not travel, and if they are outside the US, to return immediately. Yesterday, the White House did clarify that this new fee won't apply to current H-1B visa holders inside the US. However, there's still a lot of confusion, and what does this all really mean? Joining me today is immigration attorney David Van Roeren. He'll be breaking everything down and give us more clarity on what we know about the situation so far. So yeah, David, let's start with the basics. So for those who are already inside the US on an H-1B visa, or maybe they're on a student OPT and STEM OPT visa, what does this proclamation mean?
Big announcements on Friday in the immigration world. Obviously, kind of with the current administration, always say it's, let things wait a couple of days, see how things settle. Obviously, the announcement was made on Friday, and then we already saw some clarifications on Saturday. As you mentioned, this will not be applied retroactively, so there was a lot of kind of confusion and worry. Obviously, we do have to take these seriously, and we do have to kind of have some type of immediate reaction, but usually with a lot of things with the current Trump administration, stuff gets thrown out there and then it gets clarified in the coming days and weeks.
So who exactly does this new proclamation affect, and who won't be affected?
Like just mentioned, it won't be applied retroactively, so I guess that means that current H-1B holders will not be impacted, but then there's tons of questions, following up on what about extensions?
That was going to be my follow-up question for you. Renewals and extension and potentially even H-1B transfer. Do we know if those will be affected yet?
I don't think we do. I'm not positive about that, but yeah, I would assume if I had any extension coming up or was thinking to change employers, that definitely is an unclear picture at the moment. If they do put this into effect or as quickly as possible, that they'll start trying to get fees as quickly as possible. So that could be for extensions and definitely new applications.
Is there a difference if people get their H-1B through consular processing or adjustment of status? I've heard that, if you do consular processing, then you might be required to pay the fee.
Kind of how it's written, it's like this fee will be imposed or at least will be applicable at the time of entry. How exactly the logistics of that would work, we're not sure yet. It may not be a typical government fee that you pay with the application. It's paid at the time of entry, but still not certain.
Just as we're all processing that news, there is another big news that came out about the gold card. So this has been an idea floating around for, probably a couple months now, but President Trump just signed a new executive order to introduce this new gold card program. How should people understand this? And I've heard that it might even potentially replace EB1 and EB2. Is that true?
Obviously, the gold card was, I think, first announced at the beginning of this year. I believe that was just an announcement, though, not an executive order or any type of real detail there. Of course, there's been a website, but not much detail with that. So the original gold card was $5 million with this executive order that came out on Friday. 2 levels of gold cards now. 1 individual gold card, $1 million. So if an employer is gonna sponsor an employee, $2 million in that case. No longer a $5 million gold card, I guess is now being called the platinum card. That would come with some tax benefits as well. And I think that's likely the reason why the gold card amount is much less now. And the platinum card, that almost, because there's tax implications, almost certainly requires some type of congressional approval, changes to the tax code. It seems like possibly the gold card and the corporate gold card are less burdensome for them to try to implement this policy.
From what we understand, it's a gift as a donation, right? And it's not an investment. You potentially are not going to get your money back.
It seems like not potentially. It seems like you will not be getting your money back. You mentioned as far as these would be fit under EB1A and in EB2. I don't think it's actually use the word of replacing those programs yet. So my first impression for the gold card would not be a great option at the moment for Chinese and Indian investors because they're going to be stuck behind a backlog that's already in effect. Obviously, India and China are number one as far as EB5 for the gold card because they're going to be stuck with that retrogression and that backlog in the EB1 and EB2 categories. It's going to be interesting where the demand comes from for the gold card.
Even for H-1B, we have over 70% of current H-1B holders are from India. And then right after that is, roughly about 12% is from China. So clearly with all of these new announcements, it just feels like if you are on a non-immigrant visa in the US, it just feels a little bit, there's a lot of uncertainty around this. Rules might shift overnight. For people who want to seek a more stable path right now, and let's say I'm on H-1B in the US, and I want to transition to getting a green card as soon as possible, what are some of the realistic alternatives that I can look into?
It's a big investment amount and a big decision, but with EB5, it's still available. Trump looks at these things and how the administration looks at these things. They're not opposed to bringing money into the U.S. That's kind of what they like to see. It seems like EB5 is at least not even under less scrutiny.
For somebody who has the resources and are considering doing an EB5, when would you say that is, the best time for them to file? Because obviously the program might change in September 2026.
Best timing is sooner rather than later, since we can't predict what will happen in the future, and who knows, after these past current days, things can change quickly. EB5 investors are protected under what we call a grandfather provision if they file before September of 2026. So we're kind of almost treating that as like an unofficial deadline. Within the law, if you file your case before then, you should not be impacted by any future changes or even expiration of the program. A lot of uncertainty, but yeah, I would say if you're looking to do EB5, sooner the better.
When we look at reserved visa categories for EB5, rural TA and urban TA projects, there have been talks that there will be soon a backlog for Indian and Chinese nationals in the categories. Do we know when this backlog is going to hit, and what does that mean for a Chinese and an Indian citizen who is wanting to do EB5?
We don't know when it's going to hit, but we do know it will hit. So the question is when. Statistics we have, very high number of investors from China and India. So it's just a question of when. That becomes harder to predict because it takes time for these cases to move through the system. That's when those visa numbers actually get taken after the approval, after the green card gets issued. So there are a lot of pending cases, but until they get approved, they don't take the visas. But that's kind of when, almost certainly, because of how many investors are in the pipeline now, at some time next year, we do expect a backlog. When? Probably not too early in 2026, but in 2026, very, very likely backlog for Indians and Chinese.
The thinking that there might be, like an increase in EB5 petitions as well, as many people try to navigate their status here in the US. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today and breaking down everything. And obviously, we're still waiting for a lot more clarification to come. But yeah, this has been super helpful. And if you are currently on a non-immigrant visa, you should talk to an experienced attorney like David, or to talk through your options and get more clarification. But thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for you too.